My wedding ring felt heavy on my finger that evening, a cold piece of metal that suddenly seemed foreign. For 10 years, that ring had symbolized a promise, a bond I thought was unbreakable. But lately, a chill had crept into our home, a distance between me and Sarah that had nothing to do with physical space. It was in the way her laughter didn't quite reach her eyes, the way her phone was always angled away from me, the late nights at the office that became more and more frequent. I wanted to believe her. I truly did. When you've built a life with someone, your first instinct is to trust, to give them the benefit of the doubt. "It's just a big project at work, Mark," she'd say, her voice tired. "I'm exhausted." I'd nod, make her a cup of tea, and try to ignore the gnawing feeling in my gut. But the signs were becoming impossible to ignore, like little cracks spiderwebbing across a pane of glass, threatening to shatter the whole picture. The first major crack appeared on a Tuesday. I had a rare day off and decided to surprise her for lunch. I pictured her face lighting up, a welcome break from her stressful project. I drove to her office building downtown, a bouquet of her favorite sunflowers sitting on the passenger seat. But when I got to the reception, the friendly woman at the desk looked confused. "Sarah? Oh, she called in sick this morning," she said, her brow furrowed with concern. "I hope she's feeling okay." My heart hammered against my ribs. Sick? She had kissed me goodbye that morning, dressed in her sharpest business suit, talking about a big presentation. I stood there, flowers in hand, the receptionist's words echoing in my ears. I sent her a text. "Feeling okay? Heard you weren't well." A few minutes later, her reply came. "Just a migraine, at home in bed. Don't worry, honey. I was standing less than a mile from our home. I knew she wasn't there." The lie was so blatant, so careless, it felt like a slap in the face, but I didn't get angry. Instead, a strange, cold calm washed over me. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate deception. That evening, she came home looking perfectly fine, not a hint of a migraine. She talked about her long day at the office, even mentioning details of a meeting. I listened, nodding along, my calmness a shield. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Confrontation would lead to more lies, more gaslighting. I needed more than just a feeling. I needed the undeniable truth. The game had changed. She thought she was playing me, but now I was just quietly observing, waiting for the next piece of her story to fall out of place. The second piece fell just a few days later. It was our anniversary. I had booked a table at the fancy Italian restaurant where I'd proposed. I'd been looking forward to it, hoping, perhaps naively, that a night dedicated to us could mend some of the cracks. An hour before we were supposed to leave, her phone rang. She walked into the other room to take the call, but her voice carried, "Yes, of course, I understand. It's an emergency. I'll be right there." She came back into the room, her face a mask of regret. "Mark, I am so sorry," she said, clutching her phone. "It's my colleague, Jessica. Her mother had a fall, and she's completely falling apart. I have to go be with her." My mind flashed back to a company picnic a few months ago. I remembered Jessica, a sweet girl who had just gotten married. I also remembered her mentioning her mother had passed away years ago. It was a small detail, something Sarah must have forgotten I knew. "Oh no, that's terrible," I said, my voice even. "Is there anything I can do?" Inside, I felt a piece of my heart crumbling. She was using a friend's past tragedy as a prop in her lie. The callousness of it was breathtaking. "No, you stay and relax," she said, giving me a quick, distracted kiss. "I'll call you later. I'm so sorry about dinner." And with that, she was gone, leaving me alone in a quiet house with 2 anniversary gifts on the table, and the weight of another lie hanging in the air. I didn't cancel the reservation. I drove to the restaurant by myself. I sat at our table, ordered a glass of wine, and looked out at the city lights. I wasn't angry. The overwhelming emotion was a profound sadness. The woman I married, the woman I loved, was disappearing. replaced by this stranger who would lie so easily, so cruelly. As I sat there, a car pulled up to the restaurant across the street, and out of the passenger side stepped Sarah, laughing, her head tilted back as a man I didn't recognize got out of the driver's seat. He put his arm around her waist, and they walked into the restaurant together. I watched them, a silent observer to the final complete collapse of my marriage. There was no more doubt, no more questions. The lies had all fallen apart, one by one, right before my eyes. The strange thing was, the calm I had felt for weeks didn't break. It solidified. It wasn't the calm of denial anymore. It was the calm of acceptance. I knew exactly what I was seeing, and I knew exactly what I had to do. I finished my wine, paid my bill, and drove home. When Sarah returned hours later, she found me sitting in the living room, our wedding photo in my hands. The lights were on. There were no more shadows for her to hide in. She started to spin another tale about Jessica, but I held up my hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Don't," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I know, Sarah. I know everything." Her face went through a dozen emotions: shock, fear, denial, before finally settling on a stark, ugly truth. For the first time in months, there were no more lies between us. And in that devastating clarity, I found my peace. My journey was just beginning, but it was my own again. It's a painful process, letting go of the life you thought you had. But sometimes staying calm while the world you built crumbles is the only way to find the strength to build something new, something honest, on the other side. If you've ever felt that quiet ache of doubt, know that you're not alone, and trusting your instincts is the first step toward finding your own truth. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content. Your support means the world.